is Eikev. So we'll learn the first pasuk. V'hoya Eikev tishmun es hamishpotim ha'ela. Okay, I'm waiting. False start, ladies and gentlemen. I say ladies because I'm recording this and maybe my wife will see it. Okay. So, as I was saying, this week's parsha is Eikev, and the Torah starts off V'hoya, and we know that whenever it's V'hoya, it's something good. Vayhi is something bad. V'hoya is something good. Excuse me? That's the famous one, right? And all over in the Torah, it's a rule. If you will listen to the mishpotim, to the laws, and you will observe them and keep them and protect them and guard them, and then the Torah continues and tells you all the blessing it'll give you. So, right away we see what the simcha is. What's the simcha? The simcha is you're going to learn Torah. You learn Torah, you're going to have all these blessings. So we understand why the Torah uses the word v'hoya. But what we don't really understand is why it uses the word Eikev. Literally, Eikev, the way it's literally interpreted in the pasuk, it means v'hoya Eikev, if or when. We have that word in the Torah a few times. Eikev asher shama bekoli, because you listened in my voice. So because you will listen to Hashem, you'll get all these mitzvahs. But Rashi right away jumps on this word, and he says that Eikev also means, as we know from one of the patriarchs, Yaakov, what's the root of that is Eikev, it means heel. And he was called that because he grabbed on to his twin brother's heel. So here also Rashi says what it means heel is that if you will listen to those mitzvahs which people trample on with the heel. So those are the ones that we should really make sure that we keep. David HaMelech said...
Does he give an example?
Yes, we'll get to it in a minute. We'll give you an example. Like an easy one is obviously coming here and hearing Torah and having pizza. That's quite easy. But David HaMelech says, so it goes like this. He goes, I'm not worried about these heavy-duty mitzvahs in the Torah. I know I kept all of them, and I'm okay. I'm good in the books. I'm worried about the small ones that maybe, I sort of like insulted them in a way because I thought they were trivial. So this is the point that Rashi is making, and everybody just about agrees with him. The Ramban, the Rechaim, they all agree with him that Hashem did not reveal to us the rewards for the mitzvahs. And therefore, we don't know what the reward is. And sometimes something seems a monumental task to accomplish a mitzvah, and the reward may not be as great as a smaller mitzvah that you're going to do. In general, I always say that we can't be presumptuous and to think about and to believe that we know why Hashem wanted us to do this and why Hashem wanted us to do this. And even where we think we know, or even when the Torah gives you a reason why to do a certain things, that's just the Torah, Dibra Torah Kaloshim B'nei Odom. The Torah speaks in human language to us so that we can understand it. But in reality, there are 70 facets to the Torah, and we never really know what the meaning is behind it, and of course what the reward will be. But there are actually... You got to go to the bathroom?
No.
Oh, yeah.
How do we know what mitzvah is what? How do we know that this is a small mitzvah?
That's exactly the point. That's the point. We don't know. We don't know. So
we don't know what the reward is.
That's exactly the point. You're agreeing with Rashi. I'm sure he's happy up there that Dov Masig is agreeing with him, and that's exactly the point. You never know. I'll tell you something. in my own personal life, of course, we don't know what's the reward for that. But just, I'm in the midst of something. I don't want to give too much of it away because it may wind up insulting somebody. But I invited somebody for lunch once. And because of that, I've gained so much because of what he's done. And because of that, just for that little thing, I invite him for lunch. I give him a piece of gefilte fish from Cholent. And it's an ongoing reward that I'm getting from that. It's going on for a long time already. And I'm saying a big reward. And it's directly because I invited him for lunch. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu did reveal to us the reward for 2 mitzvahs. In the Torah, there's a reward for 2 mitzvahs. Excuse me? I cannot hear you, I'm sorry. Right. Number, and Shluch HaKan. Honoring your father and mother, and sending away the bird. And the reward is identical, long life. Now, honoring one's father and mother correctly and always is probably the most difficult thing to do in life. First of all, the mitzvah does not end when they unfortunately pass away. It continues. And there are certain mitzvahs to honoring your father and mother which are so easy, and certain ones, especially if God forbid they get elderly and sick and infirm, then you got to do so many things in your life to change your schedule to be with them. It's a very difficult mitzvah, and yet there's certain things so easy. I always tell my daughter, let's say I'm sitting home and I'm lazy, so I tell her, do me a favor, Shira, get me a glass of water, please. I'm thirsty. So my wife says, don't bother her, I'll get it for you. So I said, no. When she gets me that glass of water, she was Mekayim, she fulfilled one of the 248 positive commandments in the Torah. By the way, honoring one's father and mother could be a negative commandment also, like you're not supposed to sit on their seat. So you have to fear them and honor them. But I said, by her getting me the glass of water, it's exactly as if she fasted on Yom Kippur. There's a mitzvah to fast on Yom Kippur. There's a mitzvah to get your father a glass of water. So let's not deprive her of that. So for the rest of the night, I asked her like 20 times to get me a glass of water. And she told me, honestly, Dad, a lot easier than fasting on Yom Kippur. But anyway, so that's the point, that these two things get the same reward, and we have to watch out for them, for both of them. And we also know the schar mitzvah b'hei al meleka. We can't get the full reward for any other mitzvah. But the ultimate reward, I'm not sure if anybody said this, but the ultimate reward is that you live longer, and if you live longer, you can do more mitzvahs, and if you do more mitzvahs, you get more reward, and it just goes on and on and on, and it's a never-ending cycle of continued life and being able to do mitzvahs. Okay, I just want to touch on something else for a minute. Later on, there's a very scary Rashi, actually. Let's see if I can find it. Later on, the Torah again repeats this business of living a long life because you listen. And Rashi says, in one of the only places that I see Rashi do this, that the reverse is true also. That God forbid, if you don't do mitzvahs, you will, I don't want to say it, but you will not have a long life, so to speak. So we have to be very careful with just about any mitzvahs. Sheni, the parsha on Sheni starts off with something very interesting. It says, till Sheni, it talks about all the things that you're going to do, and you're going to get reward, and it lists all the things that Hashem did for us and took us out from Egypt and gave us food, and there's actually a pasuk in the Torah. Many people may not know this. I've spoken about this already. The 10th pasuk in the Torah, it says, "V'chalta v'savata v'rachtas Hashem elokecha al ha'aretz hatova asher nasan lach." Everybody knows what that means. It means you shall eat, and it's referring to bread, and you will be satiated. And satiated doesn't mean that you keep. It's a halachic term. It's not a physical thing. If you eat a certain amount of food, you have to bench. And hey, how you doing? And yet it's a mitzvah to bench. This is the only bracha of all our brachas that is midaraisa, biblical, is benching. And it's a fascinating thing. I actually, with my Rav Moshe Meir Weiss in Staten Island, we gave out a, you know him? Okay, he gave out a book, I sponsored Power of Benching. Fascinating book, if you can get it, there may be a copy here. Talks about all the great things about benching. So after the Torah tells us that, it says, Hishomer lecha, beware, heed. Pen tishkach es Hashem elokecha levilti shemor mitzvosav v'mishpotav v'chekosav asher noch mitzav chayim. Be careful that you should not forget to observe all the mitzvahs that Hashem told you. Now this sounds almost like a mother speaking to a child. Be careful, don't do this. Be careful, don't do this. But here, wouldn't it be more appropriate if the Torah says, remember, zechor, remember to do all the things that I've told you to do. Why does the Torah use it in the negative? Why does the Torah use don't forget as opposed to remember? So the Duvner Maggid, who probably most of you have heard, he's the one that had a parable for everything. For those that are not familiar, every time something happened, every Dvar Torah, everything he first gave a mashal, a parable. And because people like to hear little stories, and they would pay attention to that, and from that, he gave you the point that he was trying to make as far as the Dvar Torah. I've said this also already. Somebody asked him, how is it possible that you have a story for everything? How is it possible that you can give a mashal for everything? So he gave a mashal also, for that answer. And for that, he says, I am like the archer, the guy who shoots the arrow, except in reverse. I shoot the arrow, and then I draw the circles. So my arrow is always in the middle, because wherever it lands, I'm going to shoot the arrows around it. So the same with me. I first come up with a story. And now that I have a good story, I weave a Dvar Torah around that. So I'm always interesting, and people will listen. So he gave a parable for this also. Why the Torah uses the negative form of don't forget as opposed to remember. So he said it like this. He says there was once a person who was a big businessman, and then things started going downhill. So he borrowed from this guy 100,000, and from this guy 75,000, and from this guy he borrowed money from every place. And he wanted to pay back, but there was no way. He did not know how to pay that money back. He had enough to pay either one person all the money, or all the people a little bit. Like when you go bankrupt, you shouldn't have to do that. You know, they divide up the money among the creditors. So he didn't know what to do. So he went to the rich man for advice. He says, look, I'm in this predicament. The rich man told him, look, I'm going to give you advice what to do. When people come knocking on your door for the money, why don't you start acting crazy? And they won't bother you. So, by the way, this is not the first time that something like that happened. We all daven every Shabbos. We start with Lam Natseach, and then the L'David, B'Shanoso Estamo Lifnei Avimelech. That's exactly what he did. when David HaMelech was in trouble, he appeared before the king and he acted like crazy. And he told him, you know what, get out of here. And that's how he got away with it. So he told him, he gave him the same advice, that start acting crazy. So that's what happened. He went home. First guy that he owed money to, $50,000, knocks on the door. He opens up the door. He starts screaming. He made himself crazy. And the guy says, okay, forget it. You know, I'm not going to bother you. Don't worry about it. Next guy came to the door, and he did something else. He started jumping up and down and screaming like a monkey. Blah, 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 doing all that. The guy also left. The next guy comes. He throws himself on the floor, starts rolling like some kind of an epileptic person and going crazy, and he also ran away. So it's working. Finally, the guy that he owes the most money was the guy that gave him this advice. Comes to the door. He says, "Look, you pay me." So he starts making himself crazy as ever. He does all these things for 15 minutes, and the guy tells him, "Wait a second. I gave you that advice. Don't pull that on me. Okay? Me, you got to pay, because you're not going to fool me with that." Hashem gave us a gift, and that's called forgetting. It comes into play for many things. First of all, if I would remember all the things, let's say, that Benny did to me, I wouldn't even talk to him. But thank God I forget, and we're still friends because I forget. I'm just joking. We should all have friends like him. But it's good that we forget. God forbid, we lose someone, we say a year, and then we're supposed to forget. And it's really an important thing that we have this ability to forget. So Hashem is telling you, okay, you can forget. But when it comes to the mitzvahs that I'm telling you, don't pull that shtick on me. Don't forget everything I've told you. You can't pull that on me. I'm the one that gave you this idea to forget, but not with me. So that's why it uses the negative. Okay, I'm going to stop here. If maybe Rabbi Everett, I think I hear a door in the back. Is he coming? Okay, Pete, we'll have some pizza, and then we'll daven mincha. Okay, anybody want to say a Kaddish? No. Okay, we're good.